Welcome to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about how to plan and execute an unforgettable event that will dazzle your guests and generate more income for your organization. From fundraising and securing trendy auction items to event production and logistics, get the best tips and advice from seasoned fundraising and event professionals who have been in your shoes.
Jeff just
oh my God, we have so much fun on this podcast. It's not even funny. Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we're talking about ways that you can make your auction or your fundraising event even better.
Woohoo!
Yes, and so we've got Diana Duplanche back.
Hello.
And we've got Lori Mackay.
Hello.
And I'm Jeff Porter, CEO of Handbid, and we want to talk today about I think in general it's the whole, silent auction 101, how to make your silent auction better, but I think we really want to start out by diving into item naming and descriptions.
Mm-hmm. Fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we need to just discuss this. We just need to what's your opinion? For me, I want a fun auction, people. Mm-hmm. I want to open up an auction and be like, oh my gosh, this item looks fun. I want to do that. I want to do this. That could be for my mom. I want to do all those things.
And I want to think I can win it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to be priced so high that I don't think I can win.
It's palatable.
I want to feel like I can engage with what's happening.
It's going to happen for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a winner, not a loser.
Yep.
Those things.
Right. So, maybe one of the things you have to do then is start the item at a little bit lower of a starting bid than maybe you're comfortable with.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Get uncomfortable.
With a lower bid increment. Right?
Yes.
So that people can get emotionally attached to winning the item, like you.
Because once they start bidding on one item, typically my experience is they'll start bidding on more.
Yeah.
So you want more bid activity from people, not just one item. So get them started, get them going, let them see how much fun it is to bid online.
Right.
And then get notified when they're outbid, get all competitive.
It's psychological.
It is, and it's a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was at this event once, and this lady came up to me, and she was she clearly had been having a good time. Okay.
Libations.
So, and she's like, I want to show you something, right? So she pulls up this app, and she's like, okay, watch this. And she bids on this item, right? And then all of a sudden goes, oh no, right? And it shows it pink, right, screen saying you're losing, right? She's like, it's going to happen again. Watch it. She hits it again. Oh, no. She's like, you know what? I need to find out who's bidding against me on this item, and I want you to tell me how much I have to bid to win this item. I'm like, well, ma'am, I can't do that.
Kind of not
it's
fair.
illegal, ma'am.
So I can't do that, but I can just encourage you to keep on bidding. She's like, okay. She's like, well, you know what? I said, what? She goes, I don't even want this thing.
I just want to win.
So I will tell you, it was cute. It was a kid's painting. It was like a childhood cancer auction, and it was
awesome.
and all the kids made these paintings, and it was a painting of a cow, and it was like a little square frame, and she spent over $4,000 on it.
I love that. That's a great example of a silent auction item that when you can get that emotional buy-in, and I love art and music pieces and art and autograph things that people feel like they have a story. And then if you have the ability to tack in there maybe a video about the artist or something like that they can pull up and say, oh, this artist, oh my gosh, this is something I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the super cool video that's just able to pop up while I'm looking at this item. So I love those kind of items.
Well, and what you've described there, I think, is the important part, which is that you start to tell that story in the item so you can get people kind of connected to it.
Yeah.
Right. And that goes for a piece of art with maybe a little bit of history around it. It can go for some sort of antique, and where this came from. Or it can go for your standard stuff if someone's a collector. Right. We know this, right? We used to work with Ray Schulte, and Ray was big time with a lot of hockey teams around, hey, you have to describe the item in a certain way if you want a collector to bid on it, right? And he trained us on it, right? It's like, okay, so this isn't just a Peyton Manning signed football, okay? This is a Peyton Manning signed, Wilson authentic NFL football, signed in silver Sharpie by Peyton on
while he
this
was
day.
holding his children.
Right.
And balancing on one leg.
That's right.
And doing yoga.
Right. And I remember the first time I ran into this, we were talking to one of our hockey clients, and he had copied me on an email, and it was I don't know who. It was a hockey player, and they were game worn pants. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so his argument is,
wow.
I know this player wears this brand of pant, these Bauer pants, and these aren't Bauer pants, so I'm not sure this is really what he wore in the game. And then it came out that, no, he wore them in warm-ups, skated around the rink in them, went back in and got into his game gear, right? And so it's game worn, right? And he's like, well, it's not really game worn. That's like warm-up worn. But that's how much attention some of these guys pay.
Yeah. So interesting. That's such a good example because I don't have that knowledge, but there are people out there who really care.
They do.
And it has to be, those items have to be properly identified.
Yeah.
So what are the keywords in that situation? Authentic.
If it's authentic.
Okay.
Okay, because you'll have replica jerseys. I learned all this, right? I'm like, replica jerseys.
Only say authentic if it's authentic. Or you get into big trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's either authentic or replica.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you'll see replica helmet.
Yes.
Or you'll see authentic helmet.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. And then is it game worn or not?
Yeah.
But you don't really say that it's not game worn. So if it is, you say that it's game worn.
Yes, that's
Okay.
important. People like that. They wanted
gross,
someone
though.
to sweat in it.
That's so gross.
So weird and gross. But
I mean,
so
do you wash a
great.
game worn jersey?
I mean, I don't think you do. I think you're just like, this is
Not
how
one
it
that's
is.
got Sharpie on it. Like, I mean,
This is
This is not Lori's.
This is not my thing.
So you say what color Sharpie it's in.
you do.
And
Oh, interesting.
And you also say, isn't there a
If it has inscriptions.
yeah? Okay, right. And then also like that insignia that people for a lot of baseball items.
Certificate. So let's talk about both of those. And
Okay.
we should do a whole podcast on
This is just a
authenticity of sports memorabilia or even music memorabilia.
This is a can of worms conversation
That's
here. Yeah.
that's a different podcast. We should bring Ray onto that one.
Oh yeah.
And I'm telling you, there's a lot of fraud out there. Just warning everybody
For real.
on that. And so for real. But anyway, so getting back to what you're describing. So these inscriptions, what is that? It's like they might put in there like Tom Glavine, HOF, and then the year he was in the Hall of Fame. So the player will write that on there. Okay. And so you're supposed to note what the inscriptions are.
Okay.
And then you're talking about a certificate of authenticity. And those are important to get. And not only are they important to get, there's only certain people you should get them from.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in the future. But there are some people out. Someone will tell you, oh, this was authenticated by these fly-by-night people, or our company has X, FBI, signature analysts that analyze this. Like, be careful with all that kind of stuff. There are people out there that are in this industry that are very familiar with signatures who will authenticate it, and you just kind of want their stamp. And if you've ever watched Pawn Stars, you see what they do, right? It's very similar, right? I need to get my buddy to come down here and check this out and tell me if this is real. And actually, one of those Pawn Star guys has been on several of our webinars in the past. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's absolutely true for like the sports stuff. But again, it goes back to also how you describe it. Okay.
So this is kind of making me think of other items like wine.
Wine.
Yeah, describing wine.
Yes.
So what?
3 bottles of red wine is not a good description.
Nope.
Well, it's a start, okay? We know it's not white.
Right.
Okay.
They're
so-
not rubber ducks.
That's right.
And we know it's wine.
Yes.
Libations.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny. We're at an event one year, and this is absolutely the issue that was going on. And this lady's like, we got all this great wine, and nobody is bidding on it. I'm like, well, let's take a look. And we're like, 3 bottles of red wine, 6 bottles of red wine, case of wine. How about we dive into this and see what these really are, right? So I'm over there, like, looking through the bottles, and it's like, oh, it's a we're going to create a little Pinot vertical here. We're going to have a 2016, 2017, 2018 Pinot vertical. Right.
You're so fancy.
Isn't that cute?
So cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I love that. So in other words, it was not a $2 check.
No.
Okay.
Well, always good to value it too, right? I'm the same guy that goes around with my little Vivino app at auctions and be like, what is this wine worth? Right. So you can do that too, just to kind of get a sense of what does this wine sell for in the store. The thing about wine that's interesting is if you're getting wine that's like available in the store. People are going to figure out what it's worth, and then you're going to have to go up against that. But if you can do something that's a little bit harder to get, maybe it's coming from, a certain estate, or maybe it's vintage wine, then those might be harder, maybe, because they have to go to like a winery and go and say, hey, can I get into your library wines to get this, 2004 or whatever. But anyway,
it's spatial.
Spatial.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
spatial.
what my people say.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a unique item. And then you're almost creating a wine experience around a Pinot vertical.
You do.
Yeah.
And so you can do verticals based on years. You can do verticals based on other types of things. But sometimes that's a good way to combine them. But you have to put in there the vintage. You've got to put in there the varietal. I know maybe there's a lot of people here that aren't familiar with how wine is labeled, right? Because in France, wine is labeled by the region. But here it's labeled by the United States, it's labeled by the varietal, right? So here you're drinking a Cabernet Sauvignon, or you're drinking a Zinfandel, or a Pinot Noir, whereas in France you're drinking a Bordeaux or a Rhone, and so you just have to kind of know what that is. But you have to give enough information there, just like a sports collector, someone to read that and say, that is a wine that I'm interested in. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of those mistakes go in there, and it's not even just in the title, it's in that description where you really need to, you don't need to go in and go to their website and copy down their marketing materials about the history of the winery unless you want to. But really what you want to be able to do is go in there and say, this is a 2017, Pauline's Vineyard Kokomo Pinot Noir. Okay. And then that's enough for people to say, okay, I can look that up. 94 points, anything like that, that kind of gives them, and let's do 94 points or 92 points from like Wine Spectator or one of those, not like the, Centennial Colorado Wine Festival.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, when you have an item and you don't properly describe it, it impacts, it's not just for wine. It's like, are there fine print around expiration dates? Are there age limits?
Yep.
What are some other things? Can y'all think of mistakes that you've seen in the past?
Yeah. My favorite is gift card to Perry's Steakhouse.
Yeah. I had a whole auction of that.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe 2 months ago. 2
how-
months ago.
how
And
did
people
that
kept
go?
going, how much is the gift card? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to go into the gift card box, and I'm looking them all up, and I had to go in and like update all the gift cards, and then they started selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
But I mean, you cannot just put gift card to Perry's.
Right.
I mean, it has to be the price.
Yeah, and I would put
The
it in the
price,
title, right?
in the name of the
'Cause
item.
People
In the
window
title.
shop, right?
Yeah.
So especially when they're in the
Yeah.
app, they're window shopping, and so maybe they'll say, Perry's, let me see what it is. But better off to just say $100 to Perry's Steakhouse.
Yes.
Or if you're like me, I window shop by the images that somebody
Mm-hmm.
uploads. So I also like a really good, clear image of what I'm buying. And I don't really love images, though, of like a basket. What do you guys feel about that?
Especially when they're
Glory.
cellophane wrapped.
Right. Like, because, a lot of auctions will have these pre-made baskets with multiple items in them. So when I'm perusing the item, and I'm coming from a perspective of a participant and not even as a coach, but as I'm perusing the items, I'm like, gift baskets just don't look cool. They're just
They don't.
in a little image. They just,
I
It's
totally
better than
concur.
nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to
True.
say.
What
Better
would you
than
guys
nothing.
do? Like, for me, if it's a school and it's like a basket from Miss Betty's 8th grade class, I'd almost rather see a picture of Miss Betty in her 8th grade class
I don't know.
and then have it written out. I don't know.
I'm gonna go with the dad approach on that one and say, if this is like Miss Betty's like Yeti gift basket, I want to see the pictures of what's in this gift
I want to see the Yeti.
I don't wanna
the
s- yeah.
expensive item.
I don't want to stare at Miss Betty. I want to see the
Okay.
Miss Betty and her Yeti basket.
I
How
like
did
Miss
we get
Betty.
there?
See, I like
I
the
don't know.
personal
I love
thing.
that. Well, I concur. I mean, I would say that is probably advice that I give to clients when they're thinking of like, if they're a first time with mobile bidding, they need to understand the rules. It should look like a marketplace. It should look attractive. It should have a marketing feel to it. get some people on your committee who have experience in that and go like, oh, you can't put this item next to this item. Move these around.
Yeah.
Those little things make a difference. It's aesthetic. But from the basket point of view, if it has a theme, I go and grab a theme from the internet. That if it's a spa basket, I'll go find a picture of a lady who's getting a facial.
That you have digital rights to use, by the way.
Thank you, Jeff, very much. Now here's something that happened to me as an employee at Handbid when I had first time mobile bidding with a new client years ago. This was years ago, and they did not get it. I opened up their auction one day, and I was like, oh, my Lord, have mercy. There was a car wash, and it was a picture of the certificate.
Oh yeah, no.
Of the car wash, and and then I kept going, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was flipping, and I had to call them and say, listen, I'm going to give y'all some constructive criticism. And so I'm going to give you an example of what I've done. And so I moved the picture to a shiny, gleamy car that had, just kind of water glistening on it, and it was fresh and clean. This is the image that you're looking for. People do not want to see a teeny tiny. Couldn't even see it. It was just a gift certificate. So you have to think like a marketing graphics person almost.
Yeah. And so let's also take that to other types of examples where the image just isn't gonna fit well inside of a mobile bidding application on somebody's phone, right? And so the classic one of those was all these hockey sticks, right? So we have lots of NHL clients, and they want to. Hey, I'm a big fan, of showing at least the signature,
Yeah.
But if you have a hockey stick signed by a famous player, show the photo of the famous player.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
And then
make it a good
as a
photo.
secondary photo, because the collector's going to want to see this, as a secondary photo, zoom in on the signature, and that's it. Everybody knows what a hockey stick looks like.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So you don't need to get the entire stick in the screen, right? You can just do the important parts. And we do the same thing with jerseys and some other stuff. But yeah images are definitely,
I would say it's still possible to do the stick if you're really, if you're kind of.
It's a theme stick. I mean, I've seen Christmas theme sticks.
Right.
And
I
Pride
agree.
ones,
or
things like
jerseys
that.
can
Right.
be themed. But to Jeff's point, it is all about the autograph.
Right.
I mean, it's really
And the player.
So really highlight the things that your donors are going to be interested in.
Right.
If they were walking up to your silent auction, the first thing they're going to do is look for the signature. That's the first thing they're going to do if they're going to look at that specific item.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, can we talk also about, highlighting the people that have donated the items?
Oh,
so
Lori,
whether it's an
good one.
organization, whether it's, I don't know, a person or a family or an artist, highlighting that as you can even highlight it as one of your images, donated by the Miller family. And you have a picture of the Millers with a cute little logo that you made, added as one of your images for the item. So you can highlight the donors and you can really honor those people that are helping to raise funds for the organization that is important to you. So
Yeah, that's a great idea.
thanks, Jeff.
I love that idea.
That's
Me
why I
too.
work for you.
It's a good thing that she's coaching our clients and not me.
But
I love
really
that.
highlighting those people. I mean, and in software, you obviously have a place where you put donor, but also just really highlighting that it was donated by a specific person and why. And art, I love. We talked about this before. Creating a video about the artist, or I've even seen organizations record the artist creating the piece and use that as a video, which is really, 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 really cool.
Yes.
If you can do that, especially for an online only auction as opposed to something that's in person. So, and that's the case. And one other thing, since it's obviously visual stuff is a thing that gets me. If you have stuff like jewelry, if you have stuff like a purse or a fur coat, will you please just put that on somebody in a picture? Like, do not just show a
Please, I
picture.
beg you.
Do not just show a picture of
Somebody
a purse.
attractive.
Yeah, somebody attractive. But if you show a purse, like I have no concept
Of how
of
large
that.
it is.
Right, especially if I'm online only. I need to see it on Diana because she's cute. And I'm going to go, oh, oh my gosh, I love that purse. I need to have that purse. Right? I would never just look at a picture of a purse and be like, I'm just going to get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my
Scale. We're
tips.
looking for scale. We're looking for wearability.
Yep. Size.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're
and
selling some of the
so,
size.
and that's a great example. I was searching for sunglasses the other day. This is not auction related, but to your point, like you can see a photo of sunglasses like on their company's website. But then below that, it was brilliant. You could upload your photo of you wearing that model of sunglasses. So here's all these people wearing them, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I like that, or I don't like that. That is absolutely totally
It's
true.
key.
Yeah.
It's key.
People need that to
They
make
do.
that
And not everybody,
bid button.
not everybody that's bidding in your auction, when it is an online auction, okay, delete the bid sheet thing. Online auctions are not in person only most of the time. You want grandma from Ohio bidding on an auction for the grandchild's auction in Texas. So we want the ability for everybody to have the same experience, whether they're seeing the item in person or whether they're seeing it online. So you've got to be creative with
Yes.
the tools that you have at your disposal.
So I want to talk about creative tools around naming an item. We got into this a little bit in a previous podcast, and I feel like we could have kept going and going and going. So I think it's worth bringing up again. My personal view is I don't think every item needs to be so creative that you're just like, what the heck is this thing? I have to open up every item to figure out that you're saying, you know, go get excited. Well, what does that mean? Is this caffeine? Am I going to a race car experience? Like, come on. So
Adrenaline junkie.
Oh, they drive me nuts.
Adrenaline junkie means what?
We did an event once, and every item was kind of music oriented, but every item was named after a country music song.
Yes, that's right. I know what
I was
auction you're
like-
talking about.
I need Go Rest High on This Mountain,
All my exes live in Texas.
and I need All My Exes Live in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so now if you don't know country music, you're like, who wrote that song? Because I'm pretty sure that's the George Strait guitar, but I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
a great point.
It's a good example.
I like some creativity.
Yeah.
I said this before. I like creativity around live auction items because you have somebody explaining the item, and you can have music, and you can have videos, and you can have things on screen, and it can be just really engaging and fun. We have one organization that just does it like beautifully produced, not published, produced live auction. Love that for crazy names. But I really lean towards, like some simple names, for auction items and categories. Put
George
in
Strait
a good category.
signed whatever Gibson guitar. That works for me.
yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Well, I agree, but I think there should be 2 or 3 or 4 super clever names. Not not all of them, but
Well, and we
some
did
of
that,
them.
right? I mean, so it's a well-hidden secret that actually Handbid has in the past completely built auctions from scratch for clients. And so we did the one, remember, it was Dan and Shay, and they had 2 bottles of Don Julio 1942, okay? And one of them had 1 shot left, right? And then the other one was the full bottle, okay? It's like, okay, do we bundle these together? Do we not bundle them together? We decided to separate them and see. And the one that had 1 shot left was signed by Dan and Shay
Oh, I was like,
Yeah.
why would you be auctioning off a bottle of tequila?
because they drank it. That
I
was the
didn't
whole
get
thing.
that.
Yeah.
See, I didn't get that initially.
So then we're thinking, okay, so
Ew.
what do you want? Do you want the 1 shot left, so you shared a bottle of Don Julio with Dan and Shay that signed it, or do you want the other one? Okay, so we thought we'd do a little competition. But remember, we called one When I Taste Tequila.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
And
I love
we
that.
called the other one when
that's
I
a Dan and Shay song, by the way, so that's why it's
if you're
cute.
not country people. And then the other one was called When I Tasted Tequila.
Yes.
It's because that one was the one where there was no tequila
Where there's
left.
like
That's right.
leftover
That's right.
saliva from Dan and Shay in it.
Do you remember which one went for more?
The Dan and Shay signed one went for way more.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that
right.
interesting?
Yes, because a bottle of Don Julio 1942 has a well-known standard on the street price. You can go to Costco and get one. So that one went for about that. The other one went for nearly double that because it had their signature on it.
One of the questions I get a lot in coaching, and I've actually thought about writing an article about this for our knowledge base, was ideas of different category names.
Oh, yeah.
Because people really get stunted
Yep.
on categories, what to call them. And I think you can be a little bit fun in category names.
Yeah, I
You can.
agree.
A little bit fun.
Yeah.
But different category names and what kind of things go into those categories and like how many categories we should have based on how many items we have.
Lori, it's a great subject.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what is your advice that you give people?
Oh, geez. It depends on the group. But I mean, I feel like you shouldn't have many more than 10 items in any given category. Otherwise, you're scrolling like,
Yeah.
and please don't just put 500 silent auction items in a silent auction category.
That is so
Like break it
annoying.
up.
Yeah.
So some of the
Yeah.
items.
There's mobile bidding systems out there that do that. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, why don't you just have an all category? Well, because like I don't want to scroll through 500 items on one screen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can use search.
Right.
Right. And search is a great way. You know, there's kind of
If you know the name and if the name is titled appropriately.
or you know, so there's and this goes back to my Yellow Pages days. Okay, so there's two ways that people find things. Right. They browse or they search. Okay. So when you browse, you're browsing through categories, right? And the categories help you organize items for people that are just flipping through looking for stuff.
Right.
They don't know what they want, right? Versus I'm a golfer, I'm looking for golf, I'm looking for wine, whatever. I'm going to type in wine, I'm going to find out what all those are, right? And then get those results. So you have to kind of cater to both groups. But categories, to your point, you can get cute with them. And I also think you can have way too many,
Oh, yeah.
right? As much as you can just have the one.
Yeah.
That's not fun, right? But, you know, I think you got to kind of find that right balance of, you know, gosh, I don't know. If there were more than 10 or 15 categories, I think you're overdoing it too.
Yeah,
But
and I
Oh,
think
totally.
you have to look at your items and start to get
a sense.
themes
Yeah.
of what's happening here. Oh, we have a lot of sports memorabilia. Well, do we have so many sports memorabilia that we have to divide it into baseball and football? I mean, that's really
We've seen that.
We have.
Yep.
And then we realized at one auction that we had to do a bunch of different sports. We ended up having a lot of kind of signed celebrity memorabilia. We thought that would be fun to highlight if someone was interested in meeting with a celebrity, that we could just say, go right here to this category. You can see all of these items here. So there's a lot to think about. And do you call it food and drinks? Do you call it, you know, libations?
Anything that people are going to identify.
Yeah.
So remember that one event we did in Orlando, I think we had 15 items or more from International Drive, which they call iDrive.
Yeah.
So our category was called, like, I think it was like iDrive Experience or iDrive.
Or fun in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just a list of everything that was there,
Yeah.
you know, so.
That's cool.
Yeah. Or you could call it like the best of Austin if you're in all, you know, so if it's themed around your community. You know, there's just so many different clever ways to draw people in
Yeah.
and get them excited about your auction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be careful of some things that you think, like, for him and for her, and then you're like, I don't know, that's like for both, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, spa day isn't just for her.
Yeah. Hey,
Ooh.
Come on now.
I love that, Lori. Gosh.
You could do something like treat yourself. Or,
Treat yourself.
you know, you don't have to be like,
Splurge.
right. Because women drink bourbon and guys get manicures,
Thank
right? I mean,
you.
let's just be
Yeah,
honest with
this
I
it.
think we
It's all
can
a
stop
thing.
doing that now
Yeah.
in auctions.
Okay. I love that.
What about talking about how you can print data around what items worked for you and what items don't work for you, right? Like, at the end of your auction, you should be able to look and see, wow, holy cow, the entertainment category got all these bids and all this bid activity, but crafting with mom over here got like one, bid. And that's going to give you data for the next year of what kind of items you want to be soliciting. So you're putting your focus towards items that are lucrative towards gaining money
Absolutely.
for your organization.
And that's why categories are important.
Yeah.
You
that's
put
why-
everything in one category called silent auction, and then you go run a category performance report, which you should have access to, and it shows you how many items and what the average starting bid was and what the ending bid was and kind of what the, kind of the growth in terms of how you did against fair market value in that category. When it's one category, it's not super helpful.
Right.
But to your point, it's like, wow.
And you can
my
go to your
guests
solicitors.
love wine, right?
Oh, right.
How do we
And-
get more of these items for next year?
Well, and you can tell. Like, I mean, we've been to events where they're like, well, these items didn't really sell. And I've been to the event. I'm like, I'll tell you why they didn't sell. It was the Children's Museum. It was the zoo. It was all these things. And everybody in the room was over 60 years old. So guess what sold? Trips and wine.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And so that you have to look at the life stage, too, of the people that are in there and say, are they, going to be interested in the types of stuff I'm getting donations for?
Exactly.
And do you want to say no to some items that are given to
Yes.
you?
Do you say no, or do you just stick them in the closet?
I say,
Oh,
this is what I tell everybody to say. So we have the ability to add items in through our mobile bidding device. Anybody can add an item. And I usually tell people when they send the thank you note back just to say, thank you so much for your donation to our event. We're going to evaluate whether we'll be able to place this in this current event or use it for something in the future, right?
So we were at an event once, and this quilt came out, and so this lady said, "It's not going to sell." I said, "Oh, let's keep the hopes up." She goes, "Nope, this is the 4th year in a row the quilt has been in the auction."
That's when I would feel bad as somebody working the auction. I would bid on it.
Yeah.
Just
be
so
like,
bad for
let's
her.
put this out of its misery. Right.
I'm going to bid on this little quilt.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's a good one.
Oh.
And I know there's a lot of pressure also for certain, auction managers that you have donors that are going to watch that item and they want to know exactly what it goes for. And I feel sorry for you because I've been in that boat too, right? Where you get a donation and they want it to go for a certain amount of money, right? Or they want you to start it at a certain price. And those are tough, right? I mean, that's a bit of a negotiation you kind of have to do. But every once in a while, like, we'll go in and when those items aren't selling at an auction, we'll say, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to just have it not sell, or do you want to have it lower? And we'll have to get, kind of a game time decision on that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yep.
One thing I want to just kind of round out our conversation with here is those items that walk in the door with the person the night of the event, because that happens all the time.
Almost every event I work.
So
It feels like somebody's dropping off an item.
So I would say, part of the technology that you use might be able to give you the ability to do that right from your phone as an auction manager.
Yeah.
And man, that's nice.
And send messages out right
And
there.
Say, hey,
Just
look
had a
what
new
we
one.
just, in fact, I even have a client that has a whole category called late but great.
That's a great idea.
that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so then she
love
can
that idea.
use that broadcast message function to say, hey, folks, we just added a new item. Check it out right here. Hyperlink it. And then that item is going to get the proper attention it deserves.
I'm going to remember
even
late but
though
great. I'm going to
late
remember
but
that.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a
It
good
reminds
one.
me of the auction I did out in North Carolina where the guy
Oh.
walks in the door and it was a piece of a NASCAR car. So the driver had gotten in a wreck. The car had completely been demolished. He took a piece of the scrap metal and signed it.
That's
So
kind
he
of cool.
walks in. It is kind of cool, but you're like,
If I
what
was
is
a
this?
NASCAR person, oh, right. What is this?
Well,
We got to draw a story around it.
That's right.
yeah. Well,
So anyway,
in North
but-
Carolina, it's not too difficult to sell that to a crowd.
No.
I mean,
that's
y'all are
NASCAR
my
country.
people, North Carolinians.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We love NASCAR,
Yeah.
but I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, okay, great. We got to get this item added. It is a, what would you
Yeah,
call that? Is that a
it's-
fender?
Yeah. That item got a lot of bids that
Scrap
night
metal.
It
from
did.
what I recall. Yeah.
That's
It's
cool.
very fun.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a good conversation.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot in terms of how to just kind of make sure that your auction items are properly named, described, organized into categories, starting bids, bid increments, all that kind of great stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining us again on this. And stay tuned. We'll have a lot more advice that we'll give you in future versions of Elevate Your Event.